Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV taking a look today at the Belkin NetCam HD. This is a pretty simple product. It is a standalone webcam that will transmit its signals, whatever it picks up, to your iOS or Android device. And that's pretty much all it does. And it doesn't do it all that well, but we'll take a quick look and work our way through the product. Now, before we get in and look at the hardware, I just want to note that the packaging says that it will work with an iPad, which it kind of will. However, it doesn't have a native iPad app. So if you're trying to use the device with the iPad when you're first setting it up, you're going to go into the App Store and not be able to find the app that they're telling you to download. You have to click onto the iPhone tab on the search, and then the app will come up to configure it, and it's going to run in that iPhone emulation mode with a little tiny screen on your big iPad screen. So that's the first letdown there. The other thing is that the app doesn't actually fill the iPhone 5 screen, so it's still, it looks like it's a little behind the times in being updated as well, so that was a bit of a concern. But let's take a look at the hardware real quick, and you can see what it's about. Now it's funny, it's a little top heavy or front heavy, because it's got all this weight on the camera component here, and if you have like a little tension on the wire here, it'll easily just tip down. So you just want to make sure you get it balanced properly when you set it up. On the front is pretty much what you'd expect, the camera lens. The black section here has infrared lights that will turn on automatically for the night vision, and you can see a sample of the night vision output here. It looks halfway decent, at least for night vision on a cheap camera. Microphone is here as well, so it'll pick up audio if you so choose. Audio doesn't sound all that great, and actually you can hear what it sounds like here.
And the sound is terrible.
All right, and on the back you have a switch to set it from the operating mode back to the configuration mode. So when you first get it, you want to switch it up here. The problem that I ran into with it is that if you decide to set it up someplace else, let's say you wanted to give it to a family member, or maybe your office has a different access point for a back portion of the building or something, you have to basically reconfigure the camera from scratch. Now there's not a lot of reconfiguration to do, but you have to rename it, and it's a bit of a process to just have it connect to another access point. Configuration though is pretty easy. They give you a great little manual that walks you through the process. You just flip that switch up, open up the app, and it'll recognize that it needs to connect to a camera for the first time, and it'll guide you through the whole process. So that's pretty simple. So when you load the app up, it is going to require you to log in every time, and that includes even if you just close the app and go back into it. So if I open up the app here, I'm in it and I'm using my camera and scrolling around, and then if I leave the app and then want to go back in, you'll see it basically starts from the beginning. Now what you can do is set it so that it will allow you to auto log in each time you load the app up, so at least you don't have to keep logging in every time. So if you trust that no one really gets access to your phone too often, I would turn that auto login on. Otherwise, you're going to have to continually type in a password each time you leave the app and go back in. But as you can see, it brings you back to the beginning. So it's a little bit of a pain because it's not working like most modern iOS apps do, at least, where it remembers where it was in the background. Now, the camera's frame rate is decent if you override its default settings, and I'll show you that in a minute. It's 25 frames per second right now, but it's not consistent. So you'll see that it'll occasionally get kind of stuck, and then it'll catch up. And I'm in my basement here, and my access point is right there behind the television, so it's not that far away. We've got a really strong signal in here, and it's really not that consistent. So, and I guess you're not buying this for consistent high quality video. You're buying it just to see what's going on in a space, but nevertheless the frame rate is pretty lousy, and it's not something you'd expect at a product in this day and age. Now it has on the bottom of the app here some controls, and one of them is a record button. So you can hit this and it'll beep, and then it'll start recording what the camera sees, and if you have the microphone activated, it will also record what it hears. And as you can see, the second you hit that record button, the frame rate drops to like next to nothing. I mean, this is like 1997 calling here. I mean, this is really lousy frame rate. And I'm not sure why it does this. It could just be because the app really isn't all that optimized for the iPhone. I mean, I have a Parrot AR drone that records video streaming from a device much the same way, and I don't get this kind of frame rate lag. So it is really bad when you're doing the recording. But once you turn the recording off, and sometimes it's hard to get these buttons pushed. Once you get that recording off, it returns back to its faster state. You can also take a still photo too, and those will all drop into your photo library on the app. Now, one thing that's kind of confusing is that if you hit this in the middle, it'll load the camera image up, but if you hit the little arrow here, you can then, oops, see, it's really touchy too. You don't always get it. Let's get out of here again. And this is some of these issues that you see with this app, is that it's really not all that slick. So if you hit the arrow, you get into the settings for the camera. It doesn't have too many settings, but the name of the camera is up here. You can share and unshare, so you can allow certain people access to the camera remotely if you so choose. You could also set the camera offline, so if somebody logged in off-site, that they wouldn't be able to see the camera being on. You can adjust the rotation so that it's flipped vertically, so you could turn it upside down or do something, mount it somewhere or something like that. And it also has the ability to detect when it needs to turn on its infrared light for night vision. And the night vision, as you saw before, looks pretty decent. Now, the regular stream settings here, so when it's just on and about, it comes default as auto adjust on, and the frame rate that it gives you is really abysmal. So I turn that off, and then you get these settings here. So I turn the quality up and the frame rate up, and you can also adjust the video size down. So if you're on like a really lousy connection, you could turn the resolution down a little bit. You can also have the option to turn off the microphone so it can't be enabled remotely. And then, of course, you can do an email alert. So if you want to have the camera detect motion and email you whenever it does, you can do that and then go in and see it. It does not do texting, so you need a way to make sure your email is notifying you on your phone whenever it decides to send out an email. And I believe this probably works through Belkin's servers. So that is that. The feed will allow you to add multiple cameras to your list, so you can have a bunch of these if you wanted to. And then there's a few options for the app itself, and as you can see, I turned on that sign in automatically so that I can get into it very quickly. And then there's one other option here. You can set it for a P2P connection where you're connecting directly to the camera, but you can also relay it through Belkin's servers if for some reason your firewall is preventing that. So overall, it's a pretty simple product. It's not anything spectacular. I think it's a little bit too much money for too little camera, especially because the frame rate is so lousy, and even the recordings, when you do take a recording and put it on your phone, you get that 1280 by 720 resolution, but it is so heavily compressed and the frame rate is so slow that it's really not useful for much of anything. And hopefully the frame rate isn't slow enough that you want to be able to identify somebody who's walking in front of it. And there's so much motion blur when people are moving around that if you have a fast-moving thief, you'll never identify him with this thing. So overall, I think it'd be a great camera if it cost less. But it really is just too expensive for what it is. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.